Is that how many of these you've done? You've done 218 so far?
I think you'll be 222.
Nice. Nice. So, well, thanks for having me on, man. In exquisite company, just like looking through people that you've had on before, it's funny. Like it's a list of people I know either well or tangentially or like I've done stuff with before. So it's like looking through that list of past guests. It makes a lot of sense, and it's an honor to be in that company. So I appreciate it, man.
Thank you. I have no idea how I've tricked so many amazing people to come on here, but somehow I have. And I look at a list sometimes and it's crazy. Like people I've looked up to, people I've like admired. They're like photos or band or skateboarding, so much stuff that I've looked up to for years. They've somehow come on here, and I'm like always blown away when I hear yes. I kind of condition myself to like whenever I ask someone, I expect to hear no, and then when I hear yes, it's an amazing like a celebration every time.
Well, I get that, but you've heard yes 200 and what 20 times now, so you're doing something right. Like it's not you've heard a lot of yeses.
Thank you. I mean I've heard no's of course, and I used to
Part
hear
of the deal.
more heard more no's in the past. So I don't think it's ever something you're never gonna hear, but I like the odds a bit better now than a couple of years ago.
Absolutely.
I'm looking at my questions. I apologize. I'm always all over the place, and I try to fit everything in, and I'll try my hardest. But some questions may be out of order. But where are you from New York, or like where did you grow up?
I'm not lived in Brooklyn, New York for I think 16 years now. It'll be 16 years in October. And yeah, been here for a while, but no, from Minneapolis, Minnesota originally.
I was just talking to someone last episode about kind of the unwritten rules of when you're allowed to claim that you're a New Yorker and not. And I get this is a very sensitive subject, and I'm not trying to catch you and answer anything, but what's your take on it? Like, is 16 years long enough? Do you tell people you're a New Yorker?
No, because I mean, I feel that there are certain marks, like, listen, you can live here for a long time, but there are certain parts of, and I could just say that, you know what I mean? Lived in New York 16 years, 15 years, whatever it is, that tells its own story. But in terms of being able to like claim being an authentic New Yorker or whatever, and I feel like that is very much in the zeitgeist. People are talking about it a lot, maybe just because they're the city's changed a lot in the past few years, and I think it's time for that debate. It's always time for that debate or discussion. Subway takes Kareem, shout out Kareem, has made a cottage industry out of that. Not a cottage industry, a legit industry out of asking people stuff like that. So yeah, it's a real conversation. It's a real thing. My perspective is that, as you stay here, as you become more ingrained in the social fabric, the social systems, you get varying levels of like New York points, I kind of call it, where it's like if you have a car, you are subject to a lot of things that are, inherent to the way the city works that a lot of people who live here ride the train, ride city bikes or whatever, they're not used to alternate side parking, getting ticketed all the time, having to have an easy pass. That's, a certain level. And then for myself, especially, having children, once you have children that are in the school system or part of the daycare to 3K system, which is a whole thing, whole set of social navigations, that's its own level too. I feel like I've ascended a level doing that stuff. But to actually claim to be a New Yorker, native New Yorker or something, I wasn't born here. I didn't go through the school system or go through any of the various machinations of school within the city. So that's a thing. And also just like I don't know how old you are, but like I'm at the age too where it's like a lot of people I know who grew up here um haven't lived here for a while because they're like, yeah, I did that. I'm gonna move upstate. I'm gonna try something else, and maybe I'll come back. My family's there. So it's just one, it would feel disingenuous to put that label on myself. But two, yeah, like I'll go back to what I said initially, where it's like saying that I've been here a certain length of time tells its own story.
That's a very elaborate and concise. And like I couldn't have imagined a better answer than that. I think I could ask 1,000 people that question and probably not get as good of an answer as that. So that's incredible. That to start off with that's a high bar to set.
Setting the bar high. Let's do it. Let's set the bar high. Let's do it. Also, I mean, just like knowing enough people, if I started saying I was from here or, I'm some sort of native or something, like I know enough people who, I mean, one, my immediate social circle, but also just like enough people who like I either know from Minnesota or who are grew up here and I've known a long time and they'd be like, wait, why are you saying that? That's not accurate. You know what I mean?
Let me just show my complete noviceness, but what's alternative side parking? I assume it's just parking on the alternative side, right?
Oh yeah, you got to move your car for the street sweeper. So like
Uh,
Sunday night into Monday, it's different times based on the street. But yeah, the street sweeper comes through, maybe a street that I like to park on. I'm not going to say where because, parking is a finite resource, but a street that I like to park on, they clean it Sunday night into Monday, late, probably midnight. So you have to make sure that your car isn't on the left side of the street at that time. And then the next night, Monday night into Tuesday, they clean the street, and you need to make sure your car is not on the other side, the right side, because the street sweeper is going to come through on that side. So that's alternate side parking. You move your car for the street sweeper. You have to move it at regular intervals. Some neighborhoods it's once a week. Some neighborhoods it's 3 times a week. Sometimes it's at night, sometimes it's in the morning. Choose your own adventure.
I mean, out of all the New York people I've been lucky enough to talk to, I've never had anyone explain that to me. So, I mean, two incredible pieces of lore off the bat.
If we're counting that as lore, I love it. Yeah, man, I could talk all day about that. It make for a terrible podcast, but I could talk all day about it.
What's with I didn't expect to start off with these questions, but they're coming up based on what you're saying. What's with the I've talked to a couple of people even on here who are from Minneapolis and then make the move to New York.
Who did you talk to? You've had Mac Keelster, my old neighbor, on. He's a good one.
That's exactly who I was
Yeah.
thinking of. Yeah, I mean, I guess everyone wants to be in New York. In the States, I assume people move from all over to New York, so it's probably not as rare. I'm just thinking of the focus group of like people I've had on here to be Minneapolis born and then make the move. Like, is there a lot of you, or is it only a few like you and Mac and a couple others?
There's been, a steady trickle of people from the Twin Cities to New York over the years. I think people's rationales have changed as, culture changes and stuff like that. For me, it was I mean, long story short, I had a car blow up. I was like out of college a couple years, out of grad school actually, and doing what I could. I was working for one of my good friends who had an ad agency in Chicago, so I was bouncing down there back and forth a bit and still didn't have like a job lined up. And man, like crazy set of occurrences, but I took an ill-fated road trip with a couple friends, one of whom was my partner in Village Psychic, Spencer. We took a road trip to go see, I think it was the Emerica video, Stay Gold. Like there was a premiere in Iowa, probably like because Heath Kirchart, who wrote for America, I think he was co-owner in a skate shop in Iowa, I believe was the story. But there was an event for a Stay Gold premiere in Iowa, and we were ready to make the like I don't even know how far that drive is, like 6 hour drive or something like that. Piled into an old Buick Skylark I had, which was not in great shape, but it was like, fuck it, it'll get us down there. And yeah, that car like didn't explode on the trip down there, but had some serious problems on the way down there. And then I had to go back to pick it up. And yeah, it actually like caught on fire. So that was a big reason where I was like, okay, no car. That's a thing. But I actually happened to be out here in Brooklyn working on like a video shoot for my friend's agency in Chicago, and I found out that a couple guys who used to teach at the school that I did my graduate program at were had an like a design agency in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and they were hiring. And I put some pieces together quick, called a couple people and got an interview. And they were so slammed with work, they were like, "Yeah, come back next week and we have a job for you." And that was it. It was very quick. It went from being like, yeah, I'm kind of figuring it out. I don't really know what I'm doing with my life. I'm driving to Iowa recreationally. Um, Stuff like that, working intermittently to like bang, you're moving to New York and you have a job and your life has some direction pretty quickly. So that was my story. That's how I ended up here. And that was yeah, in 2010.
How how long did the stint at that agency go?
Not long. I mean, shout out to those guys. They took me in. They like really took care of me, but like they were doing stuff that was like way more technical than I assumed, and I just like didn't really have the chops to cut it. And also like, you know, agencies in general, projects come, projects go, budgets come, budgets go. Didn't work. So yeah, that was after like 6, 7 months. I was here kind of, set up, was living with some people, had an apartment and stuff, but like no job and kind of had to figure it out. And that was an interesting time. I look back on that time now and I'm just kind of like, yeah, I don't know how I didn't freak out, but I don't know, like at that time too, just hanging with friends, having fun. It was more fun than anything else.
I always like to pick people's brain about like just having like no job and kind of running out of money, that type of scenario. Does that, I mean, I guess it scares everyone. Like you were saying, you're surprised you didn't freak out. But do you think it like motivates you to figure it out, or does it like paralyze you?
It can do either. I think it depends on so many different circumstances. I was lucky enough to be around a lot of people who had been here for a long time. Again, like either folks who were from here or had gone to college here and had a lot of friends, like had a good, crew of people, network of people who, when I started spiraling a little bit, saying, "Oh yeah, I don't have a job, I don't know what I'm gonna do," you know everybody goes through that stuff, and just being around people who are like, yeah, you're in New York, there's jobs everywhere, you'll figure it out. You know what I mean? Go on Craigslist, go start knocking on doors, you'll figure it out. And I did, and I'm very grateful for the people who told me that.
Was it easier to find work there back then? Like I
Yeah.
always ask out of curiosity, like, is it impossible to find a job in that field now?
Doing design work is definitely, I haven't worked as like a designer in a long time, but I at that time had what I thought, and I think, you know, people that I would talk to, thought was a good portfolio. When I was in Minneapolis doing my graduate program, I worked with somebody who was a real mentor to me, who had a design agency there, Joshua Namdev Hardesty. Shout out to him. Worked with him, and we worked on, I don't know, just like all the kind of design projects that I wanted to work on at that time. It was like skate stuff, and I think Emerica as well. And a bunch of stuff for Burton snowboards, a bunch for, there was one other snow company where we worked for. So I had like a pretty stacked book of stuff that even if it wasn't even if they're like t-shirt graphics and board graphics or stuff, it's the sort of stuff that the people that I wanted to work with would see and were like, oh, this is cool. So when I could get that work, that was awesome. But also to go back to what you were saying in that era, like, was it easier to find work? It was just, a different ecosystem. Like, one, being young, being able to like work for, not that much or intro level wages. Craigslist was a real thing. I found like real design jobs on Craigslist. I found some like not so real jobs on Craigslist, but like I eventually like joined a startup off of Craigslist, like a finance startup, and was doing design work for them. The ecosystem was a lot different. And obviously there was networking, obviously people knew people, but yeah, I don't know. I have not been that level of scrappy in a long time, but yeah, I think the era and the means to advertise and procure work were quite a bit different.
So, I mean, you ended up, or it sounds like you worked for some like kind of dream brands, as America, Burton. But before that, like, did you get into designing only to do ski and snow stuff, or did you have to cut your teeth on less favorable jobs to begin with?
Oh yeah, I mean that when I was doing that kind of work, there was always like a push and pull of like I can do some design work for like a cool brand that I want to do some stuff for, but then yeah, the bulk of what I would do was usually not for somebody I was like that stoked on. There was like a push and pull for that stuff forever. But yeah, I mean before that I like interned at an ad agency where I was working on like frozen dinner ads and we actually did work on a couple cool things. Oh, what was it? Jack Link's beef jerky. Shout out to the Sasquatch. That was like I don't know if those made it to Canada, but the messing with Sasquatch ads was working on some stuff related to that. That was yeah, like an ad agency. But yeah, working on those, that's a good question. Did I get into doing that kind of work to work on skate stuff? Kinda, but like just having connections in that world and knowing people through skating, being established in that world already, I think made that kind of work come to me in that era.
So, at someone who like clearly understands and has a background in like not only skate ads but ads in general, what's your like personal opinion on ads kind of sucking lately?
Yeah, I mean it's a very different world from when I started out in that world. Print, I don't want to say it doesn't exist, but it's very, very different and much smaller. TV ads were so prestige. There were so many like great ads, big budgets for ads and stuff. And now, yeah, man, advertising is really, I mean, the folks that I know that still work in that world, I know the budgets are a lot smaller and so much goes to influencers, creators, stuff like that. It's kind of inevitable at the time. Like agencies really just sort of exist now to broker relationships is my read on it. And yeah, I don't know, it's just sort of incredible if and also inevitable if you were to zoom back 20 years and say to somebody like, hey, the models that we have now are going to go away, things are going to change, and everything is going to be in terms of product promotion, sales of products is going to be a lot more individualized and democratized. I don't know, on paper that would sound like a good thing, and I think in a lot of ways it is. Like just with Village Psychic, which, I'm sure we will get to at some point. Like a lot of what we do is, quote unquote advertising, and being a sort of like media entity, I think was a lot harder prior to this world that we're in of Instagram, TikTok, Substack. Shout out Substack. Love Substack. But yeah, yeah.
It's funny, I was gonna say, I've found analytically whenever I do an episode with someone who it actually doesn't even matter if they're present on Substack. If we literally just say the word Substack, their AI finds that and
Yeah.
pushes the episode
Yeah.
way harder. Like
Yeah.
at first I thought this has to be a coincidence, and then I started kind of testing it and paying attention. And I think episodes where people mention Substack do hundreds of more downloads just on Substack.
That tracks though. I mean, I don't know the machinations under the hood, but that tracks. And I mean, listen, all platforms have flaws, nothing's perfect, but for what I do, for what we do with Village Psychic, Substack's been incredible, and also it's I don't know, in terms of screen time or in terms of something to look at, the Substack feed, at least the one that I have, I can't speak to anyone else's, but the Substack feed that I have is as engaging as an Instagram feed and so much more peaceful. I feel like a real human when I look at that and when I read that versus Instagram. Sometimes I feel like I may need to jump out a window. So yeah.
Definitely, when I read Substack, it doesn't completely hurt my brain, and I don't have to like eventually look away from my phone in shame.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually I outside of the algorithm did have some Substack questions, but I'll circle back to those. I do want to know specifically about Village Psychic right now. Can you in your own words, I guess, like what is Village Psychic, and then what would your like role or contribution to Village Psychic be?
Like it's funny. It's like, why is the most basic question the hardest one? I always try to find a clever way to say what it is. It's a media entity. I mean, what I really want to call it is a blog. I feel like we started at the very tail end of the blogosphere, blogs being a thing, and now with Substack, shout out Substack once again, blogs are back. So maybe we'll all start saying blogs again. I don't know. I'm kind of running with blog, dude. Blog is sick. Blogs were special, blogs are special. Maybe they took a 10, 15 year hiatus. I'm saying blog. I'm gonna stick with blog. It's a blog about skateboarding and culture and the people who do it, the people who participate in culture. Um, Also a lot about footwear. Talk to a lot of footwear designers. That's a real interest of mine, and a really cool and special network to be a part of. And increasingly brand type stuff as well. I try to put the pieces of what I'm interested in professionally and otherwise together into one platform. So yeah, man, it's a blog where we talk about skateboarding and footwear and increasingly culture and brand, and try to talk to those people. Do a podcast called Visions, which is a new effort for me, for us. That's been so much fun. I'm having so much fun doing that. And then, Instagram, we've been popping on Instagram for a while, and my partner Spencer does an ungodly amount of video content on Instagram. Check us out every Sunday night. It's a ritual of ours. Sunday night, we have the weekend recap, which is where we post skate clips from the week that, where we've been on the sesh, and we're there to document our friends and the people that we like.
Uh, so is the caveat every Sunday it's your footage? Like one of you was at the event or at
Yeah.
the thing in real
Either an
life?
event or a session. Yeah, yeah. Wherever we're out skating, whether it's with our friends here in Brooklyn, or yeah, if we're at an event like the Bunt Jam, which will be on there. I don't know when this episode comes out, but if you look at our Instagram story the week after the Bunt Jam, you're definitely going to see Bunt Jam footage. We try to like make a skate video every week, which is a challenge, but like when you're around really good, cool skateboarders, it gets a lot easier. And podcast I can take credit for, editorial content I can take credit for, doing stuff like this I can take credit for. But when it comes to the skate footage, that is like 90% Spencer, my partner. So I can't take as much credit for that stuff.
I'm trying to. I want to answer all of this stuff and not forget anything. I'm bullish on the word blog. I think blogs, like, whether we whether someone admits it or not, most of everything happening right now comes from that era. Like the way everything is presented, the way like Substack is clearly like kind of becoming a undeniable force that's just blogs on repeat. I I also, I mean, people don't love that word yet. I'm waiting until it comes back like fully into the zeitgeist, but I use it. I'm glad you're calling it what it is, and maybe between us and a few other people we can make that a mainstay again.
Yeah, and it's like I like to disassociate the method of delivery from the actual content. I could say newsletter, and it is like Substack turns your content into a newsletter, goes to people's inboxes, which blogs, like, you could do that with them back in the day, but it wasn't really as much of a thing. I could say newsletter, and sometimes I do, but like it feels a little like, I don't know. T Tell me if you have this association. There are a lot of newsletters now, like a lot, and it's the term is almost getting a similar connotation to like influencer, where I hear newsletter and I do bristle a little bit because I'm like, oh, what are you selling me? And like, yes, we do paid promotions, we do things that involve brands. I mean, you have to at a certain point, and I want to, but we're not like, it's not a newsletter where it's like 10 tips to change your life through side hustles. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of that shit out there, and I don't want to be associated with that.
Actually, though, if Village Psychic put out 10 tips to side hustle, I would read that.
They would be bad. They would suck. But yeah, man, maybe that's the next thing. Who knows? Got to keep it going somehow, man.
I like we were talking about before I recorded, it's kind of like code switching in a way. I'll
Yeah.
tell. So I don't want to seem ageist at all, but now that I think of it, maybe I use the word blog, but I'm explaining it to a certain age and
Yeah.
under. And then when it's rare, but if like my parents' friends or someone like my girlfriend's aunt asks me what Nowhere Fast is, I'll say newsletter because I feel
Yeah.
they respect that more than blog.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, where it's like you have to have a certain level of awareness to either you were around for that era or you know the reference. And yeah, like I mean to that point, somebody who's a bit younger, somebody who's like a teenager, they weren't around for the blog era, they wouldn't know what that is. Would newsletter resonate with them? I don't know. But it's good to be awareness of the terminology, so I get that.
And I wanted to just to hear it from you. Is footwear is your like you're obviously interested in all of it, but
Yeah.
is footwear your like laser focus?
Not a laser focus, but it's one something I'm very interested in. But also it's a very good bridge to me between skateboarding and culture and creativity and brand as well. Like I think that these are all things that I'm very interested in, that I like to talk about, like to write about, and footwear has very solid you know, ties to each. It's also, and I have said this so many times on my own pod, on our own pod, when I'm talking to footwear designers, when it comes down to the people who actually design these shoes, whether it's for skate or just in general, it's a very small world. It's a very small world of people who actually like design sneakers or shoes in general. And I've been lucky enough to meet a lot of those people, interview a lot of those people. They're all cool. They're all like really cool, and they all have really interesting stories about how they came to doing that stuff and working in that world. And it's hard for me to think of a group of people that I've encountered where I've just generally had the vibe like you're cool. So that's definitely a big part of it as well, where it's like they in general make for great interviews, have cool stories about products that like people really want to know about because not to diminish anyone's interest, but like if you were to do a podcast or a story, some sort of written story on how, um, I don't know, a JBL speaker was designed or came together, like what was the inspiration for this JBL speaker? It would bore people to tears. No one would listen to it. It would be terrible. A shoe, that's different. Like drawing from different pieces of culture, like what's the inspiration for this? Like what was the vibe behind this? What were the discussions people were having? It's interesting. I think there's an inherent interesting quality to that, and like people in general want to hear about that. It seems to be a thing that resonates with a lot of people within skateboarding, but also anybody who's interested at all in fashion culture in general. Man, they make for really interesting stories, and I it's hard for me to think of a subset of people that would be able to tell more interesting stories. Maybe like and who knows, maybe I'll get into it one day, but I think of like I was wondering the stories between behind people who start like uh CPG companies like consumer packaged goods. Like if you're starting a soda company or like a candy bar, those seem like really interesting stories. Oh, you had Theo who does Psyche olive oil on too, and he like amazing stories from him. Like founders like that, I think tell really good stories or can have really good stories. But yeah, man, like interesting business founders, footwear designers, those people like have cool stories about cool products. So that's another piece of why footwear makes for such a good piece of the focus.
Do you like have you got any social proof of that bringing in new listeners? Like have you ever heard someone say like we actually found you because of this footwear discussion and
Yeah.
then we stuck around for all the other stuff after?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've definitely talked to people in that vein, and one thing that just like warmed my heart that I saw recently, there's a skate conference or a skate kind of related conference in the Pacific Northwest. I haven't been there yet. It would be great to go one year, but it's called Adjacency Bias, and they had a like a footwear panel. People who are footwear designers, talking about what they do. They had a full room for it. Seemed like it was very well received, and it just warmed my heart, man, because everyone on that panel had been a guest on our pod. Like all of them had been guests, and I was like, man, we're doing something right. This is really cool to see.
That's very cool.
Yeah, so you talk about social proof. That's social proof beyond anything that I would need to think that I'm onto something, you know what I mean?
For sure. That's 1,000% social proof. Hearing you talk about the type of like stories you have been a part of telling, or maybe in the future people you'd want to speak to, really makes me think like I this isn't really even a question, it's more of a statement. I just gotta commend. I really love your curation of guests on Visions because I mean, I recognized a lot of these names. Like some of them are huge professional skaters. So much like people that are there, obviously under the umbrella of skateboarding. But you manage to have conversations with them where skating is not the main focus. Like, not to say that you obviously can navigate a question about skateboarding as in depth or unin depth as you want. But I feel like listening to you talk to, I mean, the one about the light phone, there's furniture designers, so much stuff, people who are skating, but they're doing other stuff, and you're so good at like getting these stories out of these people. So if you branched out to like founders and stuff, I would love to hear it. I think you would do an amazing job at that, like back and forth as well.
Thank you, man. I mean, speaking of warming my heart, man, like you're hitting on kind of my central thesis of visions, which is like I want to talk to people from this world that I've been involved with, that people, associate our blog. I was going to say media entity, but our blog with, who have stories about doing something creative, whether it's, yeah, a company founder, Light Phone, like Joe, or yeah, somebody who designs shoes, a lot of them, somebody who is an artist, a painter, like somebody who does something creative. And that has always been something that um, you know, I want to say like drew me to skateboarding initially, but something that has always been one of the things that I value most about that whole world is that it's such a good conduit to people who not only take risks but do creative things. Put their mental energy into something creative. So I really appreciate that, man. And yeah, like I would love to say in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years that I have a media entity that is focused on people with amazing ideas and creative energy that they have put into the world. So that's really, really cool to hear.
I don't want to talk at all about me, but I'll interject with something because it's so relatable. I or way earlier on, I was talking to a lot of graffiti people. I grew up writing graffiti. That's like kind of what at least I used to know a lot about. And then I kind of found, or just one day I sort of, epiphany might be like too generous, but I started thinking maybe the one cool thing about graffiti is that it's really anonymous and no one is telling these stories. And maybe the reason that they're so cool is because they aren't told as much. So this seems like you're kind of like dry snitching on the whole culture. Then I started to feel bad about this. I have a hand in telling these stories that maybe should not be out there. But then I also realized that I found graffiti artists to be some of the most interesting people outside of graffiti. It's like I feel graffiti artists are so interesting, but graffiti might be the least interesting thing they do. So I shifted everything, and I don't want to snitch on anyone, but so many of my guests are actually very established graffiti people, but don't come on under that name. And we don't even like talk about graffiti. But I found that you can like get other stories out of these people, even if that's kind of what they're there under the pretense of. They have way more things to talk about. So it just sort of reminded me of like, these people I infatuated with, but they have other stories to tell. It sort of seems like a bit of what you're doing with all the skid, yes.
Absolutely. And I think that there's a very common thread there where you have people who might have or do have, I mean, very interesting stories about doing what they do and how they got to that point. And I mean, skateboarding and graffiti, probably a lot of interesting stories with people involved in both that involve, risks or troublesome situations or just like some kind of gnarly stuff. Those things will come up. You'll be able to talk about those things, but like how much can you actually talk about, or how much do people actually want to hear about doing the thing. I just think of skate podcasts and I'm like, if I really want to hear somebody talk about the tricks that they've done, if they want to talk about skateboarding, the industry or that world in general, skate focused, those venues exist. The Nine Club exists. The Bunt does a really good job with that. We were talking about those guys. The skate stuff exists. And I don't know if it's the same for graffiti. I mean, Living Proof clearly gets into a lot of like talking about graffiti. They, interview people quite well, I think, but if you want that focus on that stuff, you can find that. I feel like my role is to be the person who gets the stories about creativity or what people put their creative energy into. Some of that might be skateboarding, but it's probably not just that. There's probably more to it than that.
Absolutely. I forgot to say before too, this episode will come out Monday, so it'll be before the bun thing. So anyone listening, make sure to follow Village Psychic for coverage of that event because it'll be out before that.
Yeah, thank you, man. And that's really cool to know next week. Very excited for that. Toronto, we're coming out as those guys would say, it'll be a barn burner, and that is their terminology, not mine, but I'm happy to convey it to an audience that might not be aware that next weekend in Toronto is it's going to be a little wild. So follow us and stay tuned.
Yeah, there's it looks like every year it just gets exponentially more wild. Like how many have you been to before?
I've only been to the one that they did 2 years ago. And that was so much fun. And it was definitely a lot of people. It was a very cool energy, especially I'll just explain for folks who don't know. It's a skateboarding event, and skateboarding is definitely part of it, but they also do a basketball tournament, and the basketball tournament is like so fun and so heated at times. It's a lot of people from the skate world playing basketball, and man, it gets really intense and it's super super fun to watch. So yeah, 2 years ago went had an amazing time. Shout out to Vans. They help with that a ton and also just make it possible for people to come and have a good time. So it's pretty wild. And yeah, excited for this year. Just talking to those guys about the venue that they have. They've done it at Dunbat, which is like their local park, kind of off for people familiar with Toronto listening. It's not too far from the corner of Queen and Spadina, which I know is like kind of a central corner in that city. This is going to be bigger. They've outgrown that local park, and this is going to be a lot bigger. This is going to be hopefully even better. So stoked for that.
Are you like covering the entire weekend or is it mainly just like trying to get skate footage for the Sunday recap?
Yeah, so what we like to do for stuff like this is definitely get footage from the event, people skating at the event. That's obviously part of it. People want to see that, but also like while we're there, we're out skateboarding during the day, while everybody is either setting up for the event, preparing for the event, or a lot of people are just like hungover. Which listen, it's a big weekend, a big time. It's going to be a lot of people. I get that. We're out skating. We'll be out skating and getting clips with you know, some of the riders who are in the event, people who are just friends of ours, we'll be out in the streets one way or the other. So that's like kind of a cool value add that we have when we go to events like this is like here's the event, but then here's what was going on outside of the event. And that can be really special too.
Do you think like personally is there a lot of people gonna be covering the event or even though it seems huge, I always wonder like how many people are actually like caring about covering the event and like doing any journalism around that. Is there a bunch of you or is it only a few people trying?
Oh, there's usually a good, five, six, seven outlets. They usually bring in people from overseas too. There's usually some people covering from Europe, sometimes from China, Japan. So I mean, I'm sure that the event will be well documented. To me, it's about telling our story, to telling our version of the story, kind of like I was talking about, getting the event in there, getting the riders in there, but then also like, yeah, here's what's going on, while people are skating otherwise, or just, a little bit of the party action that's going on, trying to tell a story our way. So yeah.
That's like the perfect amount of people, really, just a handful trying to cover it. Like some events, it would be instead of like 30, 40, 50 people trying to like all tell a similar story, but like 5 to 10 seems ideal.
Yeah, it'll be cool, man.
I've heard, I mean, like I said, I was listening to a bunch of your stuff. So I've heard you talk about like going to school for graphic design, but I wonder, was there any schooling for journalism in your past?
Yeah, yeah, and I appreciate you calling that out. I took, I want to say like three, four journalism classes in college during my undergrad. Um, it was definitely something I was interested in, but even then, the career paths didn't make a lot of sense for me. I hadn't put the pieces together. If I had put the pieces together at that time or that age, like, listen, you could get good at journalism. I like just remember having one journalism class where I was clearly motivated, but my professor was like, this guy's just not like snapping it together. So he kind of sat me down and was like, listen, here's the rules. This is journalism. Do this, do this, do this. Handed me like a printout or something. He was like, do this and you'll be fine. And then I started, I went from getting, like B's in that class to like all A's. And I was like, yeah, man, this is it. This is cool. There's a formula to it. This makes sense. I like telling stories. And I always have like telling stories. Also I should say too, like early podcast days, like when This American Life, you were starting to be able to get their episodes online, stuff like that. I've always, man, ever since college, I've been into podcasts. I've like been a fan of podcasts. So it was on my mind, but I hadn't really like made this connection that I could go to where the media is made yet. I was still really thinking, I am very interested in graphic design. I've always been interested in like brand and graphic design history, culture, storytelling. I guess it's a different form of storytelling, but storytelling nonetheless. And like it just seemed, especially in that era, that that was a very marketable skill because it was, it was, and it still is to a certain extent, less so probably now, but yeah, it was like a marketable skill. And it's like, okay, well, if you are a journalist, you're gonna go like slog it out for not much money at like local paper or something, and maybe you'll start getting some magazine gigs or something. That was at least my mentality at the time. Or yeah, you could, you know, take this nascent interest you have in graphic design, apply yourself a bit, and pretty quickly start working at ad agencies and stuff like that. So that was really my thought process, and yeah, I don't know, it worked out in a lot of ways. In other ways, I'm kind of like, yeah, man, you were a storyteller the whole time. You just should have been doing that. But hindsight's 2020. You have to go through those processes to learn the lessons.
So is Visions your like entry into potting? Like, do you have any old podcasts, or is that your first try?
Dude, that's an interesting question because it's so funny. Like we've been doing Village Psychic since 2014, and the whole time we've been doing interviews, I've been talking to people, and it always felt like a podcast. It always felt like a podcast that I then had to like make sure was transcribed correctly, and then like do a layout for, do like graphic design-ish stuff for. And in the last probably like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I was just like, dude, I don't want to do this. I love podcasts. Like, why don't I just do a podcast? And a lot of times I was just saying to myself, like, man, you missed the window. You were around for it. It's like the price you pay for knowing too much. Whereas like, dude, there was a time, there was a window to like do to start a podcast and you missed it. So it's not even worth it. And I think I just like had that mentality. And then something flipped the other way. It's funny. I went from thinking it's like the meme of the bell curve where it's like the dumb guy on one side, the like rage guy in the middle, and then the smart guy on the right side. You know what I'm talking about? Or people
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about, where it's like the dumb guy is being like, there's too many podcasts. Everybody has a podcast. And then in the middle, it's like, oh, the time to start a podcast was like 8 years ago. You should have done it. You could have done it so easily, blah, blah, blah. And then on the other end, it's like, yeah, man, everybody has a podcast. Just fucking do a podcast. And it's like, yeah, all right, dude, forget it. Like it almost feels like the stakes are lower because there are so many. I don't know if you have similar feelings, but I think that yeah.
I always tell people like, yeah, of course, like the memes and everything are right. There is way too many podcasts. Like there doesn't really need to be any more. But having like I'm not saying this is good. I am, I guess, saying yours is good, but not necessarily. I just mean like a podcast that actually delivers information and like talks to guests that maybe aren't on a ton of podcasts. I think there's like infinite room for those, and I think now it's actually maybe the best time for something like that to be coming out. Like I think even a couple of years ago, people were always on me about like I should make video, I should make reels, I could do more like kind of gimmicky stuff to like spread it. But I was like really stubborn about like audio only. I'm just gonna do it like this. And now everything is coming like full circle almost where like people are sick of clips and sick of like watching like elaborate videos. Like they just wanna like have something passive while they're out like on a walk or driving. So I feel I like stuck to my guns, and now it's the best time for me to be doing things like the way I do them.
That's really cool. No, that's cool to hear. And it's also I do feel like the stakes are higher. Yeah, you're talking about like 2, 3 years ago, the clips and stuff were a new thing. And it was like, oh wow, this like is a way to get attention for my podcast. I could do clips, I could do these video clips and stuff. People are pretty sick of that now. I'm sick of it. You know what I mean? And the people whose stuff stands out from that realm, are finding really interesting ways to do things with that. But like that a lot of times requires editing, requires like a lot. And I think the downside now is, yeah, man, to be like a serious seeming podcast, there's a lot that goes into it. You basically have to have like there was a time where all podcasts were just audio and you could kind of do it with whatever equipment. There's a lot of podcasts that are straight up TV shows now. They just are TV shows. They're on YouTube, the video and stuff. But like as you are saying, even that methodology, even that formula is getting a little tired now where it's like, another one, another like in studio chat show. Do we need like how many of those do we need? So yeah, man, like maybe it's just coming back around. Also Substack. We're gonna shout out Substack one more time. Like Substack, I think, is doing something really interesting with podcasts, just in terms of being a different place that people find podcasts. And there's a lot of room to grow on there. Like, who knows what they're going to be or what sort of podcasts will be resonant on Substack, but it's already, at least to me, seeming like it's not that sort of like clip show format. So, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, actually, not the last thing we'll say about Substack because now is my Substack questioning. But I'm curious. Like you were saying, you got in Village Psychic, started kind of the tail end of the blog era. So where, like, how are you putting out I hate calling stuff content, but how are you like releasing Village Psychic when you first started?
Yeah, man, it started out as like a blog, I think on Squarespace, and it was like Spencer, my partner, and I, we both like had jobs that I think we weren't super into. And we were on Google Chat all day, just sort of like talking to each other about skate stuff in the skate world and whatnot. And it was this interesting thing of having so much to say, both of us having so much to say, and also like wanting to expand in that world. One thing that I find super interesting and something I'm like really grateful for in terms of culture in New York City is it's like in most other places, you can just kind of be around and like as long as you do the thing, as long as you're like participating in the thing, people will be like, "Oh, it's that guy." You know, like if I go back to Minneapolis, which is not a small city. I mean, it's small comparatively to New York, but like it's got its own ecosystem. It's got layers. It's got a lot. But like you're at a party, you're at some like event or whatever, you see people around. It's like, oh yeah, that guy skates. That guy skates. He's part of the thing. He's part of the culture, whatever. Once I moved to New York, it was very different. For skateboarding and for anything, really, I think like professionally or otherwise, it's like somebody's in the room. Okay, what do you do? Like, what is the thing you do? So I would be going to these like, you know, industry parties, um, some for skateboarding and some not for skateboarding. And it's this question of like, who are you? What do you do? What are you bringing to the table? And especially in the more skate focused ones, I was just kind of like, I don't know, I skate. Like I moved here a couple years ago, and it was just kind of like, okay, is that it? You know what I mean? Like, are you sponsored? Do you have a company? Like, what do you do? And part of that is just very New York energy. Like everybody's grinding here. What are you hustling on? What are you grinding on? And I felt like I had, and Spencer and I both had a lot to say and a lot in terms of, angles to cover. Definitely looking up to and inspire, especially in the beginning, maybe a little bit too much so. Hopefully he forgives me, but Costa, who does Quarter Snacks, who has done a phenomenal job for the longest time. Quarter Snacks is a great resource and a blog for like just blog such blog, such a history as a blog, but like at least I saw Quarter Snacks from the outside when I still lived in Minnesota. It's like, man, like this New York stuff, this New York energy, these guys are doing such cool things. But then when I got here, I was kind of like, oh, this is like a very specific viewpoint. This is a viewpoint of like a group of people like around a certain area and like doing what they do, and that's a viewpoint. That's dope. Like you're around cool people, cool stuff. This is one view. I could have my own view and it's going to be different. You know what I mean? I could have my own view and I could tell the story my way, and it's funny to look back now to think that like it started from that place because or looking at Quarter Snacks in that way because I'm like, oh yeah, there's like I don't want to say no overlap, but like we do very different things. We do like very different things and as we should, but like yeah, man, just like seeing what Costa had done with Quarter Snacks, just like, being like really impressed with that and knowing that there was a way to tell our own stories about the people that we were around, about the like energies that we saw, brands we were excited about, people we were excited about, stuff like that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if there's anything that you were not emulating, but anything inspiring, and or even just something existing that made you think you could also like tell your own narrative. But I guess quarter
Yeah,
snacks.
Quarter Snacks was huge, but also like knowing that I was in a place with so many people who were, man, it's like honestly, I hate saying honestly because like I just want to be honest with people and not have to clarify it. But like it was this energy that I'm talking about that I see in people, and I think that's just like always in my mind in one way or the other, like seeing this creative energy, being around creative energy, um, and thankfully, man, it hasn't gone away. Like I'm in this place, I'm around people who do creative things, who have really amazing creative energy, and I think if anything, just seeing that, feeling that, I knew that I needed to have a way to tell those stories or, you know, I would regret it.
Uh, Hopefully you don't mind me asking. Like, is Village Psychic your like full time thing now?
No, it's not. We definitely make income from it, and it's definitely it's been something that I've been so proud to put my energy into and like reap rewards when I can because it's fucking sick, man. But no, it's not, man. I have two kids. I live in Brooklyn. None of that is cheap at all, especially these days. So yeah, like going back to the brand thing, I do I've done so many things. I worked at startups for a long time. I alluded to that for a bit earlier. So I worked at startups for a long time. One was a startup that I helped bring together that built a product for film and TV. That was cool and a lot of grinding there, but you know definitely a rewarding thing and a rewarding time. And now I do like brand journey, brand I don't even know what to call it sometimes. We'll call it like experience work for a big company, I will say. And along with a few other people. So I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, I do that stuff and that's rewarding in its own way.
Oh yeah, that I mean it sounds cool. I was gonna ask when you guys quit your jobs to make this real, but it sounds like that's a future question.
Yeah, that's definitely a future thing. Like, and there've been times where it's like we've made more from Village Psychic. There's been times when we made less, and it's like strive to with Substack, with the things that we're involved with. I'm stoked to grow it. I'm stoked to make it happen. The pandemic is wild. The pandemic was wild because we were able to do a lot with like video and Patreon and stuff, and man, and like we were cooking in a very real way. Economically speaking, with Village Psychic, and maybe we find a way to get some of that energy back. But yeah.
I'm in the middle of trying to figure out a monetization strategy, and I'm on the fence between like going all in on Substack or Patreon. Where you used to be Patreon and then
Yeah,
moved
you'll
over.
you'll figure it out, man. Different things work for different formats. Patreon was great for us, but it's also like not a very good discovery platform. I could talk ad nauseum about this, but yeah, Patreon is great for you know, podcasts and monetizing paywalled content. It's so funny how like just within a few years, I feel like when we were on Patreon, people still didn't really know what it was. People were calling it Proton. They're like, "What is this? What? I gotta pay for this shit." And it was a little bit of a hurdle. We still, I think, did great with it. But in terms of like doing content, regularly scheduled content, like we do the blog type stuff and newsletter stuff. There's like a footwear newsletter that I do through Village Psychic. It's not really a good way to get that stuff and do that stuff. It really is, just for being able to monetize paywalled content. And that wasn't quite what we were doing. And the community aspect of Substack is just like really pretty amazing, and I feel like it's just getting started, especially as an alternative to Twitter. I refuse to call it X, but the amount of people that I talk to who are like, I just still kind of want to be on Twitter, but Twitter sucks now, so I found Substack, and that's cool. That is reason enough to hang out there.
I never will call it X either. I agree with blog and Twitter. Two
Blog and
words that
Twitter, dude. Keep it, yeah, put some respect on those names. That's where I'm at with those platforms and those names.
I just like that you can. I mean, I haven't done it yet, but you could have a note gonna go off, and that will like drive so many people to the publication. And
Yeah,
Patreon has
yeah.
nothing like that.
Yeah, they don't. And that but I think that through some very successful podcasts, Patreon's name means a lot more, like I was saying, than it did a few years ago. And I think that from what I see, there are a lot of people who, yeah, even a few years ago would have been resistant to like paying for a podcast or being turned off by having to use some like platform that they've never heard of. The word is out on Patreon. People who aren't really like podcast heads per se know what it is and it's around. I think that the that hurdle has been leaped. Substack is still it's definitely not niche. There's so many people on it. Um, I feel like there's kind of a bandwagon thing with Substack, but another thing I like about Substack is it's like the energy that I get off of it is that it's still just a platform that's really kind of figuring itself out and people are figuring it out. There's a lot of like scammy type people and accounts that are hopping on now, and I see that as a phase. People who are like, oh, 10 ways to monetize your Substack. Here's how you monetize. Here's how you get growth. And it's like, yeah, those are all things that we're interested in that we
Yeah, I feel even a few months ago, all I saw, or a huge majority of what I saw, was like people writing about writing on
yeah,
Substack.
yeah.
But
It's
even
it
that's like died down a bit.
Yeah, and I hope so, dude, because that stuff's kind of cringe where it's like just building on there to like talk about building on there, I think is stupid, but it also just like to me right away reads as very, very like infancy stages in terms of a platform.
Yeah, I don't go like I don't have LinkedIn, but I assume that's what LinkedIn is like.
Bro, don't even get me started. LinkedIn as a whole like LinkedIn uh posts and like I don't think anyone's calling it journalism, but sometimes I call it LinkedIn journalism. It's rough, man. You don't even want to go there. You don't want to go there unless you have to.
Yeah, no, I luckily haven't had to yet, and I knock on wood, don't think I will have to. But
There you
who
go.
knows?
Yeah, man.
So wait, okay, let me pry a tiny bit more about that. You were Squarespace, or
Yeah.
well, like was that you were only there and then moved to Substack, or was there a few in between?
No, I mean we use Substack for our blog, or sorry, Squarespace for our blog for a long time. I mean, it was fine. Like I think most discovery or most of what people would like see of us was via Instagram. Like we were, I think, very intentional about building our Instagram account early on, and um yeah, like mostly just via that. And I think that the weekend recap stories definitely help. But yeah, man, like the platform was all on Squarespace. Prior to that, we weren't on any sort of like bigger platform. And that was it. Yeah, we would just use that, and that was, did well for us.
When you moved over, were people into it, or was it still? I feel like anyone who launched Substack almost before today was like almost too early. Like I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
more of my
absolutely.
friends are on it now than like when I was first on it, no one was really on it.
I think that's a good sign though. Like I hear you, and it was a little bit of a risk, but like yeah, it's growing in popularity, it's growing in awareness, and yeah, like when we moved over, there were a lot of like scratching heads. I have it set up now so like our old domain villagepsychic.net just like shows our Squarespace feed. So Oh, that's the other funny thing. We never had the .com. We've always had the .net, which is like funny for so many reasons. Um, but yeah, like it just shows our Substack feed now. And yeah, it was definitely a challenge. Like I still post Substack links and stuff, and I can tell that like not everyone knows what to do with it yet, but like it'll come, man. I'd hesitate to see a future wherein, yeah, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, people are like, oh, what's Substack? That never really took off. It's taking off. It's a thing.
I was just talking to my girlfriend yesterday about I feel these days, especially, people like feeling like they're learning something new. Like if say you show some people a restaurant like their Instagram and it's really popular, they like I feel don't care as much because it's like, well, everyone knows about this. I didn't, and I feel kind of dumb, but everyone else did. But if you show them a restaurant with like no followers, they're like, oh, we're figuring this out as
Yeah.
everyone else is. And I feel like I'll post Substack links and then get not a lot, but a little response from people saying like, "Oh, we actually got Substack. Like we clicked the link, didn't know what it was, and then we signed up, and now we're subscribed, and now we're posting." I think that's cool.
Yeah,
I mean, I
it's
wish I got a cut of sending people that way, but it's
yeah, for
nice.
sure, right? No, it's coming, dude, and it's here. Like I think for that platform, it's more about growing in a way that like doesn't turn it into something scammy. And so far, even though there's like scamster people on there, I think they've done a good job of not doing that. Did you ever fuck with Medium.com back in the day? Do you remember Medium from
No,
2015?
never even heard of it.
Dude, it was around and it reminds me of what Substack is now. Like in the beginning, there were a lot of really cool people on there. The layouts on the website were really nice to look at, and it was a kind of a home for writing and for journalism and stuff. And there were a lot of cool people on there. But it pretty quickly turned into something like not that. Maybe they had to monetize too quickly. Maybe it just it one started attracting some like really weird content. Um, and then two, it just like I forget how they paywalled it, but they ended up like paywalling a bunch of stuff that did not need to be paywalled, and there was a pretty quick exodus off that platform. I had like toyed with doing something on Medium for a while, and I just like, and again, I think they'll get past it, but the dangers inherent to doing a publishing platform like that, I think were really exposed when Medium was around, and it seems like Substack, the community, the company, the energy, whatever, has like learned from that.
I was
Yeah.
scared when they were doing all the Polymarket stuff.
Yeah, man. Oh God, all that shit. Like it's just so degenerate to me. Like gambling on everything. I understand people like it, and I try not to be too judgmental, but I'm like, man, this is fucking fried.
I feel that they like kind of learned the hard way though. The backlash from that was so immense that you like didn't really hear them ever talk about Polymarket
Well,
again.
it's such a different energy, and I think even if there are people who are on Substack who like might fuck with Polymarket a bit, it's like your brand is so different from that. Like Polymarket, I think is and Koloshi and all that stuff. Like it's very solidified as part of this. Like, um, I mean, how deep can we go with this? But it's something very like Manosphere adjacent, where it's like a certain type of bro who is definitely into, Zyn packets, also likes Polymarket, also likes betting on football games or presidential elections or two roaches running up a wall. You know what I mean? Like that's an energy, and that is so not the Substack energy. Like Substack has this very like literate, learning, accepting energy. Something I said to somebody at a certain point was like Twitter, no matter what it is, no matter how thoughtful your content on Twitter is, it's like always yelling. It's always the format of yelling. You know what I mean? A tweet is a yell. It's that's like what it is to me versus Substack is something different. I don't know that I have a name for it, but it's if you were to do that type of yelling on there, I feel like people would be like, "Sir, this is a library. Calm down."
Yeah, that funny. Like, I don't want to be a polymarket apologist, but I was gonna say at least it's not Kalshi.
What's worse about Kalashi?
I don't know. I just feel like the way they branded everything feels a bit more abrasive.
It is, yeah. Oh, yeah. Their brand is definitely, yeah,
Got their fangs into all the like Knicks playoff stuff. Like any viral content around that had
yeah,
Kalshi involved.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they know. Listen, they know where their bread is buttered, man.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, they're just doing what they're supposed to. I guess you could. I mean, that's the argument for a lot of evil things, but yeah,
It is.
like
It
they're
is.
doing well at what they want to do well at. We just don't love it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll let you get back to your day soon, but I should ask one question, not about all this stuff.
Sure,
What do
yeah,
you do if you do ever spend time not thinking about skating and footwear and everything involved with Village? What do
yeah.
you do?
I mean, I got two kids, so that's basically it. Like, hang out with my kids. Most of my time, I'm hanging out with them, even though they're, in school or daycare during the day. I hang out with my kids a lot. They are so cool. I love hanging out with them. And my wife, obviously, she's around. We're like living our life, man. Going to the park, playing with, bringing my older daughter to play with friends, or taking her to Taekwondo. My younger daughter is about to be a year old, so getting through her being a baby, that is a big thing. I've been getting out skating a little bit more, and I've been telling everybody I'm getting out of baby jail because that's like a real thing when you have little kids. Yeah, man, I'm chilling with my kids that in this phase of life. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff that I like to do. I like the outdoors a lot. I did like an off-grid camping trip in the Boundary Waters with some friends, which is like the Minnesota Ontario border. Did that over the summer. That was really fun. I like fishing a lot. I like fly fishing. I like spinner fishing, regular fishing, stuff like that. Those are near and dear to my hearts, but my hearts. I only have one heart. I think. But yeah, man, I mean, my energy these days is so much of it is on the kids. So shout out to my family.
There's I see an immense crossover between skating and fly fishing these
Yeah,
days.
man.
I feel for a while it was golf and now it is fishing.
It's golf. It's and someone very smart pointed this out to me. It's golf on the West Coast, fly fishing on the East Coast.
That actually makes perfect sense.
Where are you located again? You're in Calgary?
Next to Calgary, Edmonton.
You're in Edmonton. Shout out. We
Yeah.
didn't sh shout out to the Dolphins in the West Edmonton Mall. Shout out to the Dolphins. They used to have dolphins.
Yeah. Oh, they have the most insane stuff in the mall. Flamingos, whale. I think there was a whale at one point. Yeah,
That's
no,
insane.
it's the mall's fun.
Yeah,
That's
man.
where I am. Most people have no idea. It's not really a secret, but it's also maybe not something I
Yeah.
boast every episode.
Okay, yeah, I guess if you like don't know that zone, you kind of like I think a lot of people, especially in the US, uh aren't like really aware of that area, like Alberta in general.
Like the mall and the Oilers in the 80s, like Wayne Gretzky.
Gretzky era Oilers beating the New York Islanders. Yeah. Yeah, man. That'll put some shine on your name. Yeah.
Yeah, whenever I meet people, bring up that I'm from here, it's usually one or the other that
Yeah,
I get questions about, and then it trickles. After
I get
that,
that.
people don't know much more about it, but that's fine. Yeah, again, not at all a secret, but not something I boast about. A lot of people actually think, based on the people we talk to, we might be New York.
Yeah,
Actually,
that
is
makes
our
sense. That makes sense.
Analytically, that's like our biggest listenership.
I
It's
mean, as
funny.
it should be, like the people that you have on, like there's a very common thread there. So I get that.
I'm actually gonna be in New York at the end of October.
Nice. Let's kick it, man. End of
Yeah, yeah.
October. Do you know which days?
Uh, I'll be there on Halloween. Like my
Whoa.
girlfriend is a marathon runner, and
Oh,
she's
sick.
done the marathon out there before. This year she couldn't get a bib, but we both like just love the energy around that. So we're coming out just to hang out for that
Dude,
weekend.
yeah, the marathon is like it's a very special time here. It's a very special energy. It cuts right through my neighborhood. Man, it's I love whether I know anybody running or not. It's like a good time.
Yeah, I'm always with her. Like she'll run, and I just get to experience it without running. So she didn't get a bib this year. So pitched. Why don't we go? Like you can see how fun it is without eating only bananas and like
Yeah,
sleeping
right.
at certain times. Like let's go have fun.
Go
And
have
I
fun, man. Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, I'm excited for sure. And I know a lot of New York people think this is corny when I tell them, but I going to Times Square on on Halloween night is so overwhelming for someone from here. I love it. Like it's just
Oh
such
yeah,
madness.
that's also like see we're circling all the way back, man. To me that's very like I've lived here a couple years energy where it's like, "Oh, I'm too cool for that. I'm too cool for man, fuck it. That sounds fun."
I know what we were there 2 years ago, and we were there a Halloween night, and when I was telling all the little girls, yeah, we just went to Times Square, took photos, like saw the lights. Everyone thought it was, yeah, they were too cool for it, but it was one of the better experiences of my life.
Respectfully, those people haven't lived here long enough. Like you get to a point where that shit's cool again. So, at least from my experience.
So you learn about alternative side parking and Times Square goes
And
through
Times
its
Square. No,
cycles.
I'm bullish on Times Square. It's the shit.
That's perfect. Yeah, beyond all of this, I think, unless there's anything pertinent you want to interject at the end, I think that's a good episode.
I think it's a great episode, man. Check us out on Instagram, Village Psychic. Check us out on Substack, Village Psychic. Check out the pod. You know, as Wes was saying, this will go up right before the Bunt Jam. See what we're up to in Toronto on our story.
Perfect. Yeah. You're too good at this. You beat me. Usually, I have like a copy and paste kind of like let everyone know what you're up to, but you beat me to it, so I don't
Pod
even
on
need to
pod,
ask.
bro. Pod on pod. I know how this works.
Perfect. Thank you so much for all this. It was really fun. Learned
Of
a
course,
lot.
man.
I'll shoot you an email about assets and stuff for the post, and then I'll be in touch. Hopefully, sometime. It's probably impossible being a father of two, but if you have time, it'd be awesome to connect in New York.
Nah, man. Let's kick it. Do you know what you're saying?
Yes, my manager, aka girlfriend, she would know all that, and I just get the itinerary. But when I reach out, I'll know and I'll let you know.
Yeah, let me know.
Perfect.
Very sick.
Thank you. Enjoy
Cool.
the day and the weekend. Have fun in Toronto.
Will do. Yeah, yeah. Cool. See ya.
Good. Peace.